Hi! In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Jacob's ladder. We're going to build one, make a decent base for it, and use two transformers to tie it all together and see what happens. We're going to try a couple different things, see if it blows up, and how it performs in the long run. So I'm Alex, and you're watching The Renaissance Builder. I'll clean it up later. Because this is what we're really interested in, right? Okay, well, while I'm hooking this thing up, let's talk some about it. Now, first of all, I would like to say that I'd like to say a few things about the safety concern here. For one, we're playing with electricity. Electricity is dangerous under normal circumstances. Electricity at 12,000 volts is very dangerous. So this is not something you want to do just lightly, willy-nilly kind of thing. Now that being said, I took a couple extra measures when it came to these here pieces. When I wired up the transformers, I made sure they were grounded, so that just in the case that maybe this thing feels like we overdo something and we stress it out and something blows up, it's grounded. It's not going to shock me. It's going to go to ground and hopefully blow the breaker. But either way, I'm protected. The other thing we're working with here is that that's why we went ahead and took it outside, to make sure that it wasn't, just going to straight up nuclear on us. Because you don't want to do this thing and be careless about it. Like I said, electricity is dangerous. God forbid something happen and something blows up. When you're in an enclosed space, it makes everything that can go wrong that much worse. So, if you're going to play around with stuff, make sure you're not in an enclosed space. The other thing I should mention, which I may get yelled at for, is safety equipment. Safety goggles, and in the case of electrical stuff here, let's redo this end. In the case of electrical stuff here, it's good to have natural fiber clothing and basically stuff that's not going to catch fire and melt to your skin. That's generally a good idea. All right. Like, I remember one time watching my dad. He was welding, and he was wearing this coat or this jacket that was like supposed to be like flannel, but it was like fake flannel or something like that. Either way, it had a bunch of little fuzzies on it, and I literally, like, before you could do anything about it, all of a sudden his entire back, it washed over like a forest fire, like a little mini forest fire's entire back, just this little flame front, just whoosh, burning off all the little fuzzies. Like, he wasn't very happy about it for sure, but it was interesting. So, let's talk about a couple of the principles that are working here. Now, I haven't looked it up. I should probably look it up before I open my mouth, but shoot, what would be the fun in that? Then there wouldn't be like lots of people on YouTube, you know, saying, oh, you're wrong. And hey, you know what, I might be. But if you're paying attention enough to say that I'm wrong, then by all means say so. And then when you do, then you've actually been a part of the whole scenario, been a part of the whole celebration to begin with, and that makes me happy. So by all means, tell me when I'm wrong. All right. So here's how it works. We went over transformers and electricity in a very basic manner in a previous video where I explained how all this worked. It's called, you know, the Builder Explains video series. So these are basically giant transformers. They are a little different than your average transformer in that they're not wound quite the same. I haven't dissected these myself, but I've seen images of dissected transformers like this, and they separate the coils, so there's like a secondary on each side, so there's two secondaries, and you can either have them in series or center tapped, and there's lots of interesting stuff you can do with a setup like that. So, you know, that's interesting. Gotta plug this thing in over here. So, what's happening here is we have a system. These transformers, each one of these transformers takes 120 volts and turns it into 12,000 volts. At 12,000 volts, we're capable of jumping a gap. Like literally it's enough voltage to actually overcome the resistance of the air to a certain degree and jump the gap. Now here's why the spark moves. Even though the gap gets wider, when the spark jumps the gap, it ionizes the air around the spark because of the high energy electrons that are flowing. Whenever electrons flow, I say whenever, in general, when electrons jump through the air, well, no, when they flow, they tend to give off stray electrons. And those stray electrons can influence the molecules around those stray electrons and create, in this instance, it's creating plasma. Now that plasma is actually conductive. So the plasma itself starts to form a bridge that the spark has an easier time getting across. Only here's the trick. Plasma is a light gas. It's lighter than air. So plasma wants to rise. So that bridge that's created by the plasma wants to move up. Well, the spark across that bridge will follow the bridge. So as long as that plasma is still there and moving up, then the whole thing continues to move. You'll have noticed that outside, every time the wind would pick up, then the sparks would become erratic, and sometimes it would even look like they were blowing out. That's because the plasma gets blown out of the arc, and then the electricity wants to follow it to a certain degree. So that's what's happening. We are jumping a gap, ionizing the air. That ionized air then creates a bridge, at which point that bridge wants to float because it's lighter than air, and the spark follows it. And that's how you get the ladder effect. More in depth is the fact that we have two transformers here tied in this. What I was hoping would happen is that we'd get an arc here and an arc here, and they would just kind of follow each other up, and maybe when they got up here they would start to intermingle. But what's actually happening is we are jumping from one transformer to another. We do have two arcs, but we're jumping from one transformer to another, and it's going, well, it's following the path of least resistance. So I guess in this case, the path of least resistance is to the neighboring transformer. It doesn't seem to be unhappy with it, so by all means, let her work. Let her rip, tater chip, right? So let's turn this on in this environment where we don't have a bunch of air flowing. Let's go ahead and turn her on, and see how she looks. Now you can see right from the get-go, we're a lot more consistent with our sparks. I think I might even end up shortening the rods here because it's not rolling the whole way up, and I wasn't sure how far up it would travel, but so we're getting about yay high, so I'll shorten the rods up to that point. I'd like to talk about my base here. You watched me make it, and this base I made specifically so I could adjust the gap, the spark gap going on here. By adjusting the spark gap, I'm hoping to, you know, in the event we get transformers in the future that may be more potent, or, you know, say we want to play with the microwave transformers or whatever we want to do, I can actually adjust this around to suit, you know, whatever gap that we need to make. So that's the point of this. I can loosen these screws and then I can move the rods around to make adjustments to it. That's my Jacob's ladder. Unfortunately, there were some other things. I thought this was going to be a little more exciting. Nothing blew up, so I almost have to apologize. So that's today's video where we put our iteration of a Jacob's ladder out there. I'm pretty happy with this thing. I think it's a success. Keep a lookout for future videos because we're going to be trying different things with this. We're going to be trying making different electrode shapes and see what that does. We're going to try, you know what, flames do interesting things to the conductivity of air. So we're going to throw some flames at it and see what happens with that. We're even going to try making this in a vacuum and see what happens with that. So keep a lookout for future videos. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell icon. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit a thumbs up. If you guys are going to do this yourself, I say one thing, just be very careful. This can hurt you. So, have fun, enjoy yourself, be careful, and until the next time, guys, take care.
Bye-bye.